first win in a while. Mark's predicting it already before the podcast even starts. Hopefully you guys got that rest of the clip there. We're going to be talking a little bit about the last couple games, the injury to Jake Muzzin and how that affects our trade deadline, as well as our cap. Some guys that we should go for, and then we're also going to do a little bit of a pregame to tonight's game in Minnesota. So let's start off with a couple. We'll just quickly go over the last couple games that we missed. Did you get to watch? You watched the Columbus game with me, eh?
Yeah, I watched most of it.
Yeah, and how would you describe that game in a sentence or two?
Oh gosh. Well, it's another loss, but it felt better than the two before that. So we're headed in the right direction, I guess.
Nice. Okay, yeah. Of the game by itself, when Dan, because he didn't get to watch until overtime, he asked us to describe it, and my response was boring, playing meh. First line is amazing. Oh, did that just freeze up on you there?
Yeah.
Okay. We apologize anyone if there's any freezings here. We'll try our best. Yeah, that it was a pretty boring game overall. First line is just absolutely amazing. And that we need the rest of the three lines to kind of step up the play a little bit more. And Campbell did not look good. I'm still a big Campbell fan. I still don't think that we need to go out and get anyone deadline. We can touch on that later. I think between Campbell and Mrazek, one of them at least will figure it out. They're both starting goaltenders in the NHL. But as Downtown put in his last video, and I think it was, I forget who the tweet was by, but we have the 31st worst goaltending since December.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're still 11th in the league, I think, in points percentage since then. So that just shows how good of a team we are, you know? Yeah, but the first line, like, have we ever seen a Toronto Maple Leafs first line play this well consistently?
Yeah, the whole season they've been the best line, and even when they kind of mix it up a little bit, it's just Auston Matthews effect, I think.
Yeah.
As long as he's on the first, anyone you put with them, it's going to be an awesome line.
Mm-hmm. And Michael Bunting is just, you texted, just doesn't stop. Like that guy is just the perfect Leaf, perfect playoff player. And Mitch Marner's been playing super well too, although that one giveaway that led to the odd man rush that led to the goal was pretty bad. But other than that, like, he made two amazing plays that one of them led to a goal. Sometimes you're going to make stupid plays. Just please don't let it be in the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah. He was looking so good the first half of the season. And now the second half, he's just looked all right, which is kind of worrisome. But hopefully that peaks, he brings it back up going into the playoffs.
Yeah,
$11 million should do.
Exactly. And speaking of $11 million, let's touch on John Tavares, because he has been someone who hasn't scored in the last little bit. I think 11 games he hasn't scored. And realistically, like, I know John Tavares does a lot of his work of the stuff that we don't notice as casual fans. And even if you do know hockey systems and stuff, like, the fact that you don't notice him is sometimes a good thing, unless it's in the offensive zone. But he really hasn't played that well the last little bit, and it's had an effect on Nylander, because I haven't noticed Nylander as much recently either. So I wonder who's the one that's impacting the other right now.
Yeah, he's looked a little, I don't even want to say sluggish, because like the flashy kind of guy he used to be. But then again, like the first half of the season, he looked awesome. And when they were predicting what like Team Canada's roster would be, we said, no doubt John Tavares will be on it. And then ever since kind of like December on, he's just looked all right as well. That whole second line has just looked kind of all right.
Yeah, which brings us to some lineup changes. So we now have Andre Kasha taking Kerfoot's spot on that second line with Nylander and Tavares. I like that too. Although Kasha has been good with Conf, and it's nice that they're like so close and have that chemistry. But
Yeah.
you got to try different things. I'm just surprised that they didn't put Mick up there. You know?
Yeah, a guy who wants that top 6 role.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was weird that they are trying Kasha first, but I'm not upset with it. I prefer that, and I think that that is probably an optimal line, unless we go out and we get a top 6 winger, which we'll get to a little bit because I just want you to finish up touching on the lines. So the first 2 lines are set, just to the bottom 2, and then the defensive pairings.
Yeah, so that third line looks pretty cool with Mikheyev, Kampf, and Kerfoot. So you get a lot of different dynamics on that one, which is, as you said, fast. So that's going to be pretty cool. And then the fourth line's the same. It has the Engvall, Spezza, Simmons line. And it's been a good fourth line.
It's been fine. Yeah.
Probably above league average. If we actually looked at the numbers, I have no idea. I want to say it's above everyone else's fourth line.
Yeah.
And then on defense, we have Riley Brody, Sandin, and the Russian Bear, and Dermot Lilgren.
The Boosh.
So we sent Sandin down for now. Hopefully he comes back up because we're better with him.
So and Mrazek's starting in that tonight.
And Mrazek.
So, for everyone wondering how that's working, we are trying to get as close to the cap limit as possible, because that leads to us having more cap space come the trade deadline. So I think it's close to 6 million that we will have now that we brought up Menel, and I forget the other guy we brought up that brought the salaries higher. I think we're like 40K or something crazy from the cap. The closest that we could have possibly been. So that's going to lead us to have about 6 million, and that is going to bring us to some trade targets. Now I'm going to say a few names that have just been floated around the Twitter sphere, which typically we end up not really getting a guy that's on the Twitter sphere, but I want you to say a couple of your favorites and guys that you're not as psyched about. Okay. So we're going to start with Forsberg, Miller, Raquel, Domi, and we're just starting with forwards here. So between those guys, and Andrew Kopp, between those guys, who are a couple of them that you're like that you would really want the Leafs to get, and a couple that you just don't care as much about?
So JT Miller's been like the most heavily linked, and I would actually like him on that second line. I think that'd be killer. We said earlier Domi might have been a good option, but you messaged during the game and you're like, he's been invisible. And I don't know if it would be sweet still, and maybe we could get him back to where he wants to be. I don't know.
Or where he was like 3 seasons ago.
Yeah. And I guess the only other one that really interests me is Philip Forsberg. He's just been pretty consistent over the last few years.
He's amazing.
Yeah. And I just remember that Nashville run. He was like one of the best players out there.
Yeah. He is. The only reason that he's not as much on mine is just because of how much it would likely cost. And I am my untouchables in the podcast with Downtown. We kind of touched on this. My untouchables were Topi, Nyes, and forget who my third guy was. Oh, Robertson. I would prefer none of those guys be traded. And I think if you're going to go get Forsberg, you're going to have to give up something like that. Whereas I feel like JT Miller is a little less of a price to pay. For probably a player that, even though Forsberg is absolutely amazing, but a playoff guy like JT Miller just seems like a little bit more of what that second line would need. And the fact he can play center, you could even go with the classic Tavares, Matthews, Marner, and put Miller on the second line with Nylander and Kasha in the middle. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so there's those options. And then the other one I forgot to mention was Hurdle. Now I know you're more of a San Jose. San Jose is your second team. Hurdle for me, I only watch the San Jose games where the Leafs play. So
Yeah.
I can't honestly say that I know too much about him. Can you tell me anything about Thomas Hurdle just based on the fact that you like San Jose?
Well, he used to be really good, but that was like 5 years ago. And I don't think I've heard his name mentioned in like the last 2-3 years. Thomas Hurdle, is he still with the Sharks?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, he is. And that's another thing too, is he can play center. But automatically when you're getting a center, you're
he's
paying
still
more.
doing really well.
Yeah, it's just like he's on a San Jose, so you don't hear about it.
Yeah, so you just never hear of him. So yeah, he's a guy who's just been consistent his whole career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he would be someone interesting. You're just once again all come down to price. And if you want to go all in, so like, what's your standpoint? Because some people are saying go out and get. We haven't even got to defenseman yet, but go out and get a top 4 guy because you don't know if Muzzin's even going to come back, and we can't walk into the playoffs with the defense we have now.
Yeah.
But if Muzzin does come back, you have a guy to pair with him on that, and like have an amazing top 6. So is your thoughts like, now that we have this cap space, go out and get a top 6 guy like a JT Miller, get like a Thomas Hurdle, and then also go out and get someone on defense that can play a top 4 role? Or are you just one or the other and don't give up too much of the farm?
I want to say we get both. I really want a defenseman, like a top 4, because if Muzzin comes back and he just can't hold it together for this playoff run, then we're really missing, like, that's a big piece gone.
Yeah.
So I would love a guy to just come in. Like, we got Giordano. Oh my gosh. I feel like he's the missing piece that could just put it all together. And then a guy like JT Miller, if we can somehow get both, I think it'd be the most confident I would ever be.
So what you'd have to do.
I don't know if it's doable, because then we have to get rid of a good prospect, but
not only a good prospect, we have to get rid of Kerfoot. And we might have to get rid of a guy like Mrazek, because Giordano is around $6 million, if not over, and JT Miller is around the same. We only have $6 million in cap space. So if you're going to get both, you need to do something in terms of shedding some cap. And Kerfoot in the playoffs last year was one of the only bright spots for the Toronto Maple Leafs. The guy had an amazing playoffs. He can play shorthanded, everything. Now I understand if you're getting JT Miller, that's a thing that you will have to do. And maybe if you put a Kerfoot in a deal, you don't have to give up such a high prospect, because Kerfoot is still under term. He's a good player, and Canucks aren't making the Stanley Cup anytime soon. So you want more guys like that. I would obviously like to see both. Of those guys, JT Miller would be awesome. I just always wonder the price, especially with the Canucks and having, like, because we're both in Canada. I never really trust GMs on other Canadian teams. Yeah. But I honestly got to say that a guy like Rickard Rakell, I know that not many people, I've been on this guy's tail since last year. He was in trade rumors to the Leafs. There was Manson and Rakell once again. Yeah. Whenever I watch this guy play, he just has the capability to be absolutely elite. He reminds me a little bit of William Nylander in that way, where some games he's just the best player on the ice. So I also understand that Raquel hasn't had as elite seasons. So he could come cheaper for a team that Anaheim knows they're not going anywhere in the next couple of years. So they're still building. Yeah. So I really like Rickard Rakell. The Domi, I mentioned him a bunch of podcasts ago. The thing with Domi is you're taking a huge gamble on going all in, because you're not taking a gamble on what you have to pay, because you probably don't have to pay anything more than like a fourth or a third. Yeah, for him. He'd be cheaper. Yeah, he'd be cheaper, but his contract is so high that that's your top 6 guy. And if he's not a top 6 guy, then you missed the boat on getting a guy like Rickard Rakell or JT Miller. And you could still possibly go out and get a top 4 defenseman, but you've missed the boat a little bit on that. And is Domi an actual top 6 player? Or is he invisible like he was against the Leafs the other night?
So are you leaning more towards getting a top 6 forward over a top 4 defenseman?
No, I think you have to go and get a top 4 defenseman at this point because you don't know if Muzzin's going to be back. And we've seen what the playoffs look like when Jake Muzzin or a guy like Jake Muzzin gets hurt. We lose the first round. So if you're gonna run it with the current defense we have, no chance.
Yeah, not looking good.
Not looking good. So
yeah, I think depending on what top 4 defenseman we get, it'll really dictate what kind of forward we might be able to look at. So we might have to go with that cheaper option that's a little riskier, or just leave it.
Yeah,
which I'm also kind of cool with, but I don't know.
That's the thing is like people are saying like you need a better second line forward than Alex Kerfoot, and it's like, yeah, in a perfect world it'd be nice, but they're just having a slump right now. You know,
exactly.
I think they'll get back, but then you also look at games, and this is something I wanted to bring up because usually I'm a huge positive guy when it comes to the Leafs. I always try and be positive, but it is something where the amount of times we outshoot teams and dominate them in games and still lose has been the reason that we've lost in the playoffs for the past 3 years.
Yep.
Right. So there is something there about that finishing ability where we put Tavares, Matthews, and Marner on a first line against the Columbus Blue Jackets, and they couldn't score a goal in the equivalent of game 7 in that series.
Yep.
The issue in that game was that there was no secondary, like there was no chance anyone else was going to get a goal. And that was against Columbus. So if those guys can, and they dominated that game, but they just couldn't score. So the thing that you need is like there's going to be games where the top line just dominates but doesn't score, but you're going to need that secondary scoring to come up big, which is why Justin Williams was so absolutely amazing in the playoffs all the time, is because he was never on a first line, but he would always come up big in moments when the top line wasn't going. And that's why he was Mr. Game 7. So a guy where you can just, if you could have a second line with Nylander, with Miller, Hurdle, whatever, and with Kasha, and then your first line can be, those are 2 first lines. You know, one is probably the best line in the entire league with Tavares, Matthews, Marner, and the other one is like a bottom 15 first line, but it's your second line.
Yeah.
You know? So it's just like, I don't know, man. It would be so nice, and that is what we need, but the defense needs to come first now that Muzzin is out, and we're always worried about Muzzin a little bit anyways.
Yeah, it would take so much pressure off him if we brought in a top 4 defenseman.
Yeah.
And I think I read that off Keefe's or Dubas's statement that came out today or yesterday. They're talking about him placing him on
LTIR.
on IR.
Yeah.
And he's like, I hope this break really helps take the pressure off, because I feel like he always feels like he has to be the guy, because he always has been.
Yeah.
So,
and the physical guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And after that first game, watching the Russian Bear, I'm pumped.
Yeah.
To see what he can contribute.
The Boosh. Yeah. Yeah, he looked good, drew a penalty, played well defensively. The 1-2-on-1, his spacing was off a little bit. Like he could have been a little bit closer to the shooter. But don't allow 2-on-1s, you know? And then the play where it bounced over a stick, like that shit happens. Happened to Jason Spezza last year too. So, you know, like shit like that is gonna happen. I don't know. I thought
he's only had one morning skate with the boys. So,
exactly. Yeah.
And he's already looking decent. So love that.
One thing I didn't like was I think it was the goal that it bounced over his stick. Yeah. Maybe it was after, but they showed him after, and no one from the Leafs came up and were like, hey man, it's okay. Like no one was, and I think it was the fourth line on there. So like these are the things that you expect Wayne Simmons and Jason Spezza to be. I'm not even going to include Jason Spezza because he does everything right.
Yeah,
but
he probably yelled already.
Yeah, but it's just like Engvall skated right by him, and it's just like maybe that was only the split second that I saw, and people were like, "Hey man, it's all good." But it's like the guy's new to the team. He probably feels like shit. He just had a puck bounce over his stick. Like someone tell him it's okay, you know. But once again, context matters. Yeah, so I think we're both on the same page. We need a top 4 defenseman, and it would be nice to get a top 6 forward.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay. Well, let's go ahead.
Before we end things off, I have on a positive note. I want to ask you, who do you think leads the NHL with 5-on-5 road goals?
Matthews.
It is Michael Bunting.
Oh shit, really?
Yep. Michael Bunting has the most goals in the NHL 5-on-5 road games.
Wow. And Auston Matthews has the most 5-on-5 in the NHL.
Yeah. And then second was a big tie between Draisaitl, Matthews, Gunsel, I mean.
Oh,
and
so
I think McDavid was there.
So the question becomes, is Bunting better than all of those players?
Yes, as of right now, yes. On the road, you need a guy to score. You're getting Bunting on.
You're getting Michael Bunting. Yeah, yeah. He has quickly become one of my favorite Leafs.
Yeah, I wanted to cheer for him just to like make the starting roster during preseason. And now he's the guy.
He's the guy on the first line. Yeah. Do you want to quickly talk about your thoughts on the goal Spezza scored? Did you have what did you think? Be objective.
Is that the kick one?
Yeah.
I didn't think it was gonna count.
Yeah, same.
But they're like, you know what? Screw it. Let's just give it to him.
Do you think that goal would have counted if it was Pierre Engvall? What do you think the fact that it was Jason Spezza?
So. I feel like there was a little bit, like the refs had a little bit of bias or something, and they're like, whatever.
The only thing that I can kind of see is like he might have hit it with a stick after, and the fact that it was so close to tell, and the kicking motion was a little bit of a redirect. I still think it was a kicking motion, but those two things combined, it was like we were called it a goal on the ice. It's not enough to overturn.
Yeah,
right.
It's one of the times where it's supposed to be clear and obvious, and it wasn't. So they're like, we have to go with whatever is called. Yeah. So that's how it should be.
Yeah, and I think if it was the other way around, I think if someone scored that goal against us, I wouldn't be happy.
Yeah, 100%.
But I also would let it go pretty easily. You know? Yeah. It wouldn't be. I would be like, what the fuck? But then at the same time,
those are the goals I expect scored against us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and they don't even go upstairs to check it. They're just like, no, it's a goal. It's against the Leafs. Oh, okay, it's a goal. And actually, it's a penalty. Yeah, Riley, you go to the Bucks. Nick Ritchie, even though you're in Arizona now, go to the Bucks. So, we'll just leave this off. No, we won't leave it off, but this will be our second last thing. Rodion Amirov has a brain tumor, so obviously, take the hockey out of the equation. Obviously, very sad. The guy's 20 years old, and the guy, he's still out on the ice all the time, even though he's going through therapy and everything like that. So It was nice that John Tavares had a moment with all the boys on the ice this morning and just sent out whatever, if you want to be religious or not, sent out thoughts and prayers. So taking hockey out of the equation, we obviously hope, and everyone should hope, that this guy is healthy first and foremost, even if that means that he never laces up his skates again, as long as he's healthy. Yeah. Shit like that happens. And then from a Leaf perspective, we draft amazing guys in the 7th round. So we're always going to find other talents. So don't let someone having a one of the most worst moments that someone could possibly have anything to do with hockey and the Leafs prospect system. And if I see any of that shit, I'm going to call it out for sure. Because I have seen a couple of those things and everyone else is roasting them for me. I think because most people have a shared common sense of humanity. But there always is that little part of people who's like, even when Jake Muzzin got hurt, some people are like, oh, look at the cap space we have now. And like, I know I paused there for you, but I was just saying like how when Jake Muzzin got hurt, people were like, look at all the cap space we have. And it's like, I'm not going to lie to you. That crossed my mind. Yep. I think you'd be lying as a Leaf fan if you didn't say, oh, it's cool that we have cap space. But the first and foremost, most important thing is that the guy probably has a concussion. I've had a shit ton myself and I'm stupid as hell now. So like the guy's probably had more concussions than you can count on two hands so far in his career. So we just need to hope that he gets better. And what I did say in the chat is that it might be a blessing in disguise a little bit for both, because it gives him time to just like take a step away, work on his health, work on his personal life, like get back in the right mindset, because hockey isn't everything. And then, hey, if he comes back for playoffs and is a fully rested Jake Muzzin, it's like we acquired a trade deadline Jake Muzzin and still get another guy. But also he's had some time to just like chill out a little bit, right?
Yeah. Just take the pressure off. That's what it's all about. Because you could tell he's been affected this season more than any.
And you also have to like, I know some people are like, they're professionals, and I'm guilty of this saying, like, you're making $1 million a year, fucking deal with it. But at the same time, like, with COVID and everything like that, you're having fans in the stands some games, you're not having fans in the stands other games, you're changing schedules, you're staying in the United States for a long time on the road, changing time zones all the time because you've changed your home games to accommodate fans in the stands. Like, there's been so much just change, and you are professionals. That's what you deal with. Anyone would be very lucky to be an NHL hockey player and get paid that much. But at the same time, like, it probably does have an effect, especially with people with families. I can't even like schedule shit for myself like that. And I'm in a relationship, but I have no kids, you know, like I have nowhere to be. So like, imagine people having to schedule with kids going to school, not going to school, lockdowns, like, you know, it must be crazy for some of these players, especially the American born players. We'll leave on a bit more positive note and just go for our predictions for tonight's game.
Oh yeah.
So
I'm going
you said
5-2 Leafs tonight.
Oh shit.
They're making a statement.
And okay, so that's a bold prediction, but you don't even need a bold prediction. Minnesota Wild, I would be curious to know if they've ever let 5 goals in the entire year, because this is like an amazing defensive team. I'm gonna go 3-2 Leafs.
3-2.
3-2 Leafs. Yeah. And I think Cash is going to score in his first game with that second line.
Yeah. Nylander assist.
Nylander and Tavares assist. Yeah. And I think I just quickly to you, are you worried about their goaltending whatsoever?
The Leafs?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Because I've seen some people.
They freak it out.
Yeah.
Relax. It's a couple games.
They're like, we should go out and get Marc-Andre Fleury, and like that would be cool. But if you're getting Fleury, you're basically saying, "Hey, Campbell, we're not going to re-sign you." And what you should do right now is you should re-sign Jack Campbell while he's in his slump. Now, I know his agent. I know this kind of stuff doesn't work like that. But if there's a way, like, I'm sure Campbell was like, no, let's talk about this later when he was on a high streak. Yeah. And then if you can get him signed to a more team-friendly contract now, that would be awesome, because he's not doing so well. Yeah. I'm not worried about either of these goaltenders. One of them will do well. And Mrazek has only played 7 games the whole season? Give him a break.
Yeah, he's hardly played.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully they'll 3-2. Well, either way, he's letting in 2 goals tonight. Both of our predictions.
Yeah. Two's all right.
Awesome. Okay, so we will give you a post game, probably not tonight, but tomorrow, for everyone tuning in. Everyone also check out the Buds and Blue Jays. They post every Thursday, which is today, eh? So they'll post a video
Yeah,
tonight.
they're recording right now.
Oh, awesome. Perfect. So their last video was on the history of the Blue Jays, which if you just are a casual fan, cool things to know. We could someday do a history of the Leafs, although I think if we're both being honest, we would only know from the 2000s on.
Yeah, you'd have to have Din on.
Well, even
like he knows random facts.
Yeah, like I find it always hard when people are like, "Oh, the best player on the Leafs was Dave Keon." It's like, how many Dave Keon games did you watch? You know, like let's be honest. You know,
I
it's
watched a bunch as a kid. I don't have any like drilled into my brain.
Yeah. Well, did you watch them in like black and white TV?
No.
Well, it's
probably did, but don't remember.
Yeah, I think we're mainly the Matt Sundin era was when I start remembering the Leafs. And granted, for everyone, we're both 28 years old, so we're young. So don't hate us for not knowing too much of Leafs history. We should have someone on in the future who does know a lot, because it would be cool for us to learn too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the Buds and Blue Jays, check them out. They have an hour-long video every Thursday, and as the season starts, hopefully with the lockout ending, they're going to do series recaps about the Jays and stuff like that. And yeah, we might have one of the hosts, Riley McConnell, on our podcast to talk some Leafs, because he's a Leafs Avs fan.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, talk about bandwagoner. Okay, so that's it. We'll see you guys next time.